Are you a corporate escapee and wasting valuable time attempting to figure challenges out on your own? Well, this podcast is for you. We bring you firsthand experiences of guests going through many of the struggles you face each and every day.
We get real with no corporate BS. And now, over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Hello and welcome to Corporate Escapees, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of people who are successfully running their own businesses, hearing their war stories and motivations for making the jump from their corporate gig. I'm your host, Paul Higgins, and our guest today is someone who, after years of working in corporate, met the perfect storm when she first started her new business. She found out she was pregnant, and also her partner left her within a week, leaving her as a single mum with a new business. She talks about how she hustled her way through this. It was really inspiring. Also, she gives some really rich insights into email marketing and also social media marketing. So what I'll do now is hand you over to Vanessa Cabrera. Welcome, Vanessa Cabrera, to the Corporate Escapees podcast, brought to you by Build, Live, Give. So, Vanessa, we're going to get to know lots about you today, but why don't we start with something your family and friends would know about you that we wouldn't?
Oh my gosh. Okay. You hit me with a good one. All right. So let me see. I'll give you like the scoop. Something funny that my friends, my close friends and family know about me that maybe others don't is that my last name is Cabrera, so I am Latina, but I oftentimes, when I'm in a group of Latinos, I oftentimes kind of like pretend not to understand Spanish just to see if they're talking smack about me.
Very sneaky.
True story. Yeah.
Very funny, very funny. And have you ever had that situation where they were talking about you?
I have busted some, let's just be real. Like, girls can be catty, okay? And Latin women, we're no different. So yes, I have busted some people. I've called them out, some people I didn't. But yeah, that's just something like funny I do.
Yeah, look, I definitely, when we travel, especially to Italy, my wife's family background is Italian, so she can't really speak it, but she can certainly understand it. And yeah, we've had some very, very entertaining conversations, especially when it comes to local prices versus tourist pricing. It's like, hang on, they've just charged us 3 times the average here.
Yes, so. Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your corporate escapee story?
Yeah. Okay. So my background has been in marketing. I've been in marketing my whole career. And as soon as I got out of college, I was very blessed to be a marketing and communications manager for a trade association that represented the out-of-home entertainment industry. So think like Pac-Man, dartboards, jukeboxes, that kind of thing. And so I loved every minute of it. And I'll be just honest with you and your audience. I'm second generation to that industry. So my dad totally hooked me up with that job straight out of college. And when I say Pac-Man paid for my college, it's true. My father sold Pac-Man for like 30 years. And so I loved every minute of it. I was there for 10 years and was responsible for all their marketing, their website, events. I launched their email marketing program, which is when I graduated from college. Social media wasn't wasn't even in existence. I'm totally dating myself, but email was launching. So that's where I really started, was with email marketing. And from there, I went to, after 10 years, I loved it, but I needed something different. I needed a challenge. And to be honest with you, Paul, I needed to make more money. So the gambling industry came into Chicago, which is where I'm from. And let's just say we call gambling like amusement's rich cousin. Let's just say slot machines are making much more money than Pac-Man is, right?
Yes.
So I got everything I wished for. I got a challenge. I got a ton more money. And be careful what you wish for, because I hated every minute of it. I went from loving my job to, having the Sunday night blues to dreading Monday morning. And it was basically because it was a good old boys club. It was very male dominated industry, right? And to be just honest with you, they just treated me not very well. They treated me like a secretary who, a little girl that liked to play on Facebook, never really took me serious, even though I was hired to be their marketing person. They treated me like a secretary. So I was like getting coffee, and there was other bad stories that I won't even get into, but you could just imagine, in a very male dominated industry like gambling, like where really the deals go down. It's not necessarily always in a boardroom, right? So I was planning my escape. And every night I would go home and I would work on my website and all that, because I knew what I knew was valuable. Since the association days, people were always asking me, Vanessa, how are you doing this? How are you sending out these emails? How did you grow the Facebook page so quickly? Things like that. So I knew in the back of my mind that what I knew was valuable. And so I was planning my escape, but unfortunately, or fortunately, the slot machine that they had for the marketplace was not the right product. And I knew that. So I lost my job. And about a week later, I found out that I was pregnant. And about a week after that, I found out that I was going to be a single mom. So my world got turned upside down within 3 weeks' time. And I was like, how did this happen to me? Right? I did everything right. Right? I went to school. I studied hard. I'm a good worker. I pay my taxes, all this stuff that we're supposed to do. And here I was, jobless, pregnant, and alone. So I don't know what to tell you, Paul. I just knew in my gut, literally and figuratively, that this was going to work. And so I didn't even touch my resume. I don't know what came over me. I'm like, you know what? If I don't start my own business now, it's never going to happen. So I did. I just put one foot in front of the other and just really worked my ass off for 9 months straight. Obviously, I couldn't go out party. So I stayed home and continued to work on my website, and would speak in front of anybody who would listen. And it was just like really hustle and go time. So that's how I escaped.
Well, that's an amazing story. And what, was it harder or easier than you expected when you did finally start your own business?
To be in the beginning, I think it was just, it was somewhat easy just because I knew what I was doing when it came to marketing per se, right? Like you have to build an audience and you have to get your social media channels up and, all the things. So I think I was just in such a grind for 9 months that I was like, okay, this is how I get clients. So, when it's fear-based, or the fact where I cannot fail, it's not just about me, it's now about my son, right? It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be probably that first year, but to be honest with you, Paul, I was such in hustle mode because I couldn't fail, that it came relatively easy to me. But that was only year one, okay, in entrepreneurship. And now I'm proud to say I'm now in year 6. I'm coming in my 6th year. And it's, and I have a thriving consulting business. I have a waiting list of clients wanting to work with me. But if you would have told me this 6 years ago, I'd been like, you're crazy. So it was a little easier for that first year. But again, for me specifically, it was just because I knew what I had to do. And I just kept pushing and grinding. But it wasn't always easy. Like I have never worked this hard in my life now in year 6. It's really a grind. Now I love it because I love what I do. So I'm extremely blessed, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to sustain the business.
Yeah. And with, giving birth, et cetera, how did that transition occur? Did, your clients stay with you, or did that sort of interrupt the business?
So I was planning ahead. I knew I would take 2 months off. And to be honest with your audience, your listeners, when I was let go, I was a little saver. So I did have money in the bank. I was always a little saver. So for those who are wanting to escape, this is one piece of advice. I would say save every dime you possibly can, because you're going to need it. Because even though I saved, that money goes quick. Mm-hmm. So I knew that I was going to take 2 months off after my son was born. And like I said, I just kept grinding. I mean, there's pictures of me where I'm like very pregnant and, doing a seminar about email marketing back in the day. So it was just about, building that list and getting in front of as many people as I could before I became, a mom.
Great. And what sort of help did you get along the way?
So my email service provider tool, the tool I use to send out my emails, is Constant Contact. And so I have been a Constant Contact customer since 2001. I'm totally dating myself. So I've been in email marketing a very long time. And so there was always local seminars about email marketing and social media, and I would always go to them on behalf of the association. Well, I got very chummy with the speaker, and he was the first person I turned to when I lost my job. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm planning to do. And he said, hey, do you know that there's a partners program that Constant Contact has? And I'm like, what? And he's like, you'd be perfect for it. So it just so happens, right? Everything happens for a reason. The week I found out I was going to be let go, within 2 weeks, there was the first Constant Contact Partners Conference that was going to be held in Boston. So I booked my ticket. It was the first business plane ticket I ever bought with my own money. Since that, before then, it was always, my company paying for it. So I was like, whoa, that's a big wake up call. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't expense this, right? So I went there, and I'd say that was a huge help because they then helped me get some speaking gigs. Obviously I was selling Constant Contact. That's like the call to action at the end of the seminars. But to be honest with you, Paul, it's happened so organically because I was doing that anyways. Like I said, back from the association days when I first sent out our first email campaign where no one saw that, had seen something like that before. Like our board of directors and our members called me and was like, what is this? So I was already doing that. They're all like, what is this? I'm like, oh, it's Constant Contact. And I would just tell them what I was doing and how I did it. And that's pretty much the monster help that I really got, that really helped me in the beginning.
Brilliant.
Was partnering with Constant Contact.
Excellent. And, we'll move now into the build section. So when someone says to you today, Vanessa, what do you do? How do you answer that?
So my go-to answer is I'm an online marketing consultant, and I help small business owners, particularly women entrepreneurs. That kind of happened organically too, and it's probably because of my story and the style that I teach. But I help them put together an online marketing plan. I see so many small businesses, solopreneurs and things like that on social media, but they're just posting just to post. There's no real strategy on how to use these tools that are literally at our fingertips on how to basically sell their products, sell their services. So that's what I do.
Great. And what do you know about coming up with social media plans that few others don't?
So I think what I run into with, all the clients I've had the pleasure of working with is that there's so many options out there with social media that it gets overwhelming, right? It gets overwhelming for them, and there's no plan. So I just like to really simplify marketing because it can be so overcomplicated. And if you just pick one or two social media platforms to focus on and master those, because one of the things I've seen is that everyone's on every single social media platform on the planet, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have a first strategy session with clients, and I'm like, okay, tell me, where you live online. And so they're like, okay, so we have a Facebook page, we have a Facebook group, we have a LinkedIn profile, we have a LinkedIn business page, we're on Twitter, we have a YouTube channel, and we are now on Instagram. Okay. How many of those can you sufficiently run effectively and putting out killer content? You can't, right? No. There's no, unless you have a team. And I'm talking about like, small business owners that they're doing their own marketing. There's just no way, right? So my first advice would be just to focus on one or two social media platforms that A, your target market is hanging out, and B, that you actually enjoy. I think that's like a big myth that people are, think they have to be on Twitter. Well, if you hate Twitter, right? And, then you have to be on there. Your audience is going to know. They can smell the BS when someone doesn't like what they're doing. Yeah. So I would say to one or two social media channels, master those. And what I mean by master is that you actually bring in money with that. You have a system that is actually bringing you clients and customers, and then move on to another one.
Look, it's a great point, and I think let's use me as an example. So corporate escapees, just like you, is my key target audience, and they're probably in all channels, like you said. But if you were advising me which channels I should focus on, which are the key social media channels you would recommend?
So my first question would be what is your target audience? Who's your target audience?
Yeah, so my target audience is probably slightly more male than female, but between 40 and 50, and either have left like you because of they were let go because of something. There was maybe a redundancy involved, or they've just had enough, and they want to spend more time with their family. So similar to you, spend more time with your family and really be in control. So they've all had a corporate background, and now they're effectively, running their own business.
Yeah. So I would say, just based off of that if I were you, I would stick to LinkedIn. Because when people are looking for an escape or looking for new jobs or things like that, they generally tend to go to LinkedIn. It's their corporate background. And I've met several people who, have seen my story and have connected with me on LinkedIn. So I would focus on LinkedIn for you, Paul, and then as well as your podcast.
Great. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I definitely, because, I had a Facebook group, I had Instagram, I was the classic where I had everything.
Yeah.
And you're right. There's so many people listening right now probably thinking, oh, gee, I'm like that as well, just spread too thin. And then I just doubled down on LinkedIn. And I think with LinkedIn, where you can also retweet, I think, you don't have to, that's quite easy. So look, that's great advice. And I really, I know so many times in our community when people do double down, they get such a better improvement than being spread too thin. And, other than being spread too thin, what are some of the other classic mistakes that you see people make on social media?
Well, I'd say using social media, again, just to keep it simple, is that, it's phenomenal that we have all those social media channels. However, really what we want to use social media for is lead generating. That's it when it comes down to it. Okay. And so when you're first getting started, or even if it's your third or fourth year in business, my advice is that you have to have an audience to sell to, right? I mean, I know it sounds simple, but people get so focused on, the numbers and the followers and, all of that, where there needs to be some sort of system in place where they're continuing to grow their audience and their email list at the same time. So they actually have someone to sell stuff to. I can't tell you how many times I have these phenomenal entrepreneurs, and, they get a little bit disappointed because, they only had about 10 people register for their webinar or whatnot. And then I ask them, okay, how big is your email list? And they say maybe, 40 or 50. And then I'm like, okay, well, how are we generating more people into that list? And they're like, well, I'm not. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's just do the math, right? So I would say a commonality is to use social media as a way to generate leads. And by leads, I mean to grow your email list at the same time.
Yeah, great. And we've got so many people, and probably people listening right now, that say, look, I've got really good connection base in LinkedIn, but I don't, particularly own that, and I haven't converted that into my list. So what are some of the key tips you've got for getting people from LinkedIn into your list?
Yeah. So nowadays it's all about content and providing real value to people to connect them with your expertise, right? So you need to have some sort of opt-in, right? Opt-in or freebie, or, giveaway in exchange for their email address, right? So you no longer can say, join our newsletter, right? Just click here to join our newsletter. This is 2018, okay? So you have to give them some sort of value in exchange for their email address. So that's in like a guide or a video tutorial or, whatever the case may be that you're an expert in. And then once you create that opt-in, write that guide, and set up your email automation, right? Set up that welcome funnel. Then you have to put it out in the universe, right? I've had so many clients where they have all this, but I'm like, well, how many times do you post about it? And I'm like, oh, well, I posted about it a couple months ago. Okay, well, you've had new followers since then. So I'd say like post about your opt-ins and your freebies on a regular basis on LinkedIn,
Yeah, that's and just on the opt-ins, is there any particular format that's working better on LinkedIn at the moment than others? Like, is it video? Is it PDF? Is it infographic? What are you sort of seeing trends in your clients?
Yeah, so I think the format, you kind of have to test and know your audience on what format they like to get content from you. Different strokes for different folks. So, yes. But one of the things that's really easy to do and people love to get because it's really quick, like the opt-in to me should be, and this is what I teach opt-ins, I actually do a whole webinar about this, but opt-in should be like a snackable treat, right? That you're helping them with one problem, okay? One problem that you can help them with. So for example, I did a guide last year for Facebook Lives, and I did a checklist, like what to do before, during, and after your live streams to prepare them. So checklists are really simple to do. They're really easy to create, and they're snackable, meaning like your audience can literally, just kind of review it. It won't take very long because our attention span is tiny, right? And move on. So I would say, I don't know if there's a particular format that does better than the other, just as long as your opt-in, your freebie, your guide is banging. I mean, like, don't half-ass your opt-in, because I've had other clients that say, oh yeah, I can just use a guide that I did last year or a couple years ago. Your content is what's going to separate you from everybody else. So my advice is that when you create an opt-in and say someone comes back and say, wow, Vanessa, I would have paid for that information, you got yourself a killer opt-in. And it doesn't matter if it's a webinar or a checklist or a guide, so long as that content is phenomenal and really helped them, that's what's going to separate you.
And your ideal clients, so like who do you love working with?
I mean, like I work with a lot of solopreneurs. I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs, a lot of consultants, a lot of coaches. I do have some male clients too. I don't discriminate, guys. It's just, like I said, it just happened kind of organically as I started to speak more and more in front of people. The women entrepreneurs just naturally gravitated towards me, maybe because I'm a single mom, maybe because, I had enough balls to jump, and, they're just seeing how I did it. I think that's the connection, the human connection that other women entrepreneurs have to me, that, if I can do it, having lost my job, newly pregnant, completely alone, and I did it anyways, then anybody can do it.
And, you've had, like you said, an amazing journey over the 6 years. What is the future? What's your prediction for the next 3 years?
Oh gosh, I'd be a rock star, right? And I can retire in Bali, right? I'll come visit you in Australia. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm a professional speaker. I'm proud to say now that I actually get paid to speak, where back in the day, I drove 2 hours to speak to like 2 people when I was about 6 months pregnant. So I did the grind. So I would like to do like just more speaking gigs, land more, national conferences, because, this is a virtual world, and obviously you and I love it, right? But, every once in a while I like to hang out with like the 3-dimensional people and have that human interaction, which will never be replaced. So I say maybe from 3 years from now that, I land some, bigger stages, maybe social media marketing world. I have my eye on that, and just traveling the world. I'll go to Australia, Paul.
Yeah, well, we have some great conferences here, so
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm writing down a couple of names right now that we'll talk to
Nice.
once this is over to get you down here.
Awesome. Would love
Yeah.
it.
And as far as, improving the profitability of your business, what are some key things you've done to improve the profitability over the 6 years?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So one of the things I learned early on was as an entrepreneur is that you have to have multiple streams of income coming in. I know that kind of seems like 101, but this is the stuff you learn, right? During your entrepreneurial journey. So I started off with email marketing because that's what I knew best. And then I started, doing people's email campaigns and becoming their email marketing manager for those who didn't have the time to do it. But it was like a step above a virtual assistant. No offense to virtual assistants. I love them. I would not be where I am without virtual assistants. Yes. But they had an email expert do their emails. But that wasn't enough. So you have to have multiple streams of income. So, I created different ways for people to work with me, right? So I get now, paid to be a speaker and paid for one-on-one clients where, I have VIP sessions with individual clients one-on-one. I have a group consulting program for those who can't afford, right, the one-on-one attention, and I get it. I just launched an Instagram membership. It's called the Instagram Incubator. So where all we do is talk strategies on how to work Instagram and like just Instagram 101 for businesses who have no clue how to use it and things like that. So that's where I'd say I'd learn is like just creating different ways on how to help different entrepreneurs and marketers, and like different strokes for different folks and in ways that they can afford it.
And as far as, the key trends, like obviously I think there's been a bit of a trend from, Facebook to LinkedIn, and certainly for B2B, I've seen that the organic reach you can get on LinkedIn versus Facebook is exceptional. But what are you seeing as some of the key trends in the social platforms? Are they stable at the moment, or is, they're about to be another major change?
Yeah, I think all eyes from my own experience as well is that, I think we've all seen and felt that, engagement is down when it comes to Facebook business pages, right? Mm-hmm. This earlier this year, like actually January of this year, at the beginning, I can't believe 2018 is over, but in January, remember Zuckerberg himself said, right, he dropped a bomb saying that they weren't going to push out a lot of content from business pages and publishers because he was listening to his customers, and his customers, which is you and I, saying we didn't want to see ads. We didn't want, all the stuff in front of us. We go on Facebook to stalk our exes. We go on Facebook to socialize, right? So I've definitely seen engagement down from my Facebook business page. And I think, as we all know, Facebook has become a pay-to-play platform. So meaning you have to boost your own content, your own post for your own followers to see it on your Facebook business page. So I think a lot of people, that's why people are turning to Instagram, because Instagram engagement is so much higher than Facebook right now. And I think all eyes are on Instagram stories. That feature is a tremendously powerful feature that businesses are really, really taking advantage of. So I would say for anyone who's interested in Instagram to obviously get familiar with the basics, but I think my prediction for 2019 is that all eyes are going to be more on Instagram stories rather than just posting to Instagram.
Okay, brilliant. And what's the key way that you get new clients?
Speaking. Yeah, I'd say the seminars I do and the webinars that I've been doing. So, they're both online and offline stages. So that's the key way I've been able to land clients is through my seminars that I do in person and also the webinars that I do online.
Great. And it seems like you did do the hard yards. Like you said, you started with audiences of 2, and they're probably one of them was your family members, right through to, where you are now. Any tips based on your journey that you can give someone that's just at the start of trying to get a speaking gig?
Yeah. So take any gig that you can. Okay. This is where I started from. So I can only give advice based on where I started from. So in the beginning, I took any gig that I could, reach out to your nearest chambers, find out where your target audience is. But I reached out to chambers. I reached out to women organizations, and I would said, hey, I would speak for free. I have an hour seminar of, email marketing, or I have an hour seminar on how to grow your list or something like that. So I would say buckle down and just hustle and speak for free and speak to as many people as you possibly can. And then my other advice on becoming a speaker is to be nice. Okay. And so this is something that I'm teaching my toddler, but it's 100% true. You will not believe the amount of other speaking gigs I got just because I was nice, meaning like I gave them my presentation way early. I promoted the hell out of their event. I, then when I hit the stage, as it was my time to go to work, so I presented the best way I could. I stayed and answered questions. I stayed and helped the event producer clean up. She was all by herself. It was 8:00 at night. Everyone had gone, and there she was alone cleaning up her event. And I stayed and helped her, and she was amazed. Well, she had another event the following year. Well, guess who she called? You know what I'm saying? So there's just so many speakers out there, in my opinion, Paul, and I'm just going to be honest, that like their ego is insane. They just go, speak, don't answer any questions, and leave. And that to me is just an ass move. So I would just say to really stand out is to just help the event producer as much as you possibly can, because it's a really big job that it is. It's a lot of work to put an event together. And they're doing it, and they're literally giving you a stage for you to speak on. The very least that you can do is just help them in any way possible that you can. And I guarantee you, if you do that, word of mouth will spread.
And you mentioned before about virtual assistants. Just tell me a little bit about your team. Who helps and supports you?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I have to give a shout out to Jessica. I have 4 different VAs. They're not full-time too. So, don't think I'm fancy because I have 4. I use them for different times and for different things. But right now, Jessica is my VA, and she is my right-hand woman in my Instagram membership. So, anyone that has a question and it's like a techie question, she goes in and answers it right away because she knows Instagram like the back of her hand. She posts all of my Instagram posts for me and things like that. That's one VA I use. I use another VA here locally because sometimes when I do these speaking events and I don't have the attendees, right? You need the attendee list to grow your emails, to grow your email list. Sometimes they give me a stack of business cards. Well, I have a VA that, I give her the stack of business cards. She data enters them into my list, sends out, all my follow-up emails, books all my strategy sessions with them. She, calls them on the phone and says, hey, what did you think about Vanessa's seminar? Did you want to book a strategy session with her and things like that? So I also have a phenomenal bookkeeper. She's not a VA, but she does my books. And so, yeah, you need help. As you get bigger, you're definitely going to need help to free up time for you to just focus on your content and selling.
Great. And, as I said, year 6, what are some of the biggest challenges you face today for your business?
The biggest challenges I face today. Let me see. I mean, it's always, financial goals. I always have financial goals and reaching them. I wouldn't say that's a challenge, but sometimes we just don't always reach those. Let's see, financial challenges. I'm not quite sure. I'm pretty good where I'm at. I'll be honest with you. It's been a good year, I mean, besides maybe not getting, the 10K stages that I want, because I've submitted myself and they say, no, not this year, maybe next year, stuff like that. That's a challenge. I guess maybe just in general, and I think everybody can kind of attest to this, is just to stand out from all the noise that's out there. That gets into my head too. But I as I tell a lot of my, clients, where they're like, well, I did a whole Facebook Live about this in my group, and it was called Facebook Envy, right? Where you look at somebody else and they're like, well, how did she grow her group so fast? Or how did she land that speaking gig? Or why didn't, all that? And I call it Facebook Envy. And I struggle with that too. So, but you just have to put your blinders on and just focus on your work and don't worry about what other people are doing.
Excellent. Well, look, before we go into the next section, I'd like to mention our YouTube channel called Build, Live, Give. You get tips to help corporate escapees, just like Vanessa, to rapidly grow your business. So if you would like to subscribe, just go to Build, Live, Give. And please, if you love the content and you get value, share it with other corporate escapees as well, so we can all have a great lifestyle and also financial freedom. So the next section is the live section. So tell us about a couple of daily habits that help you be successful, Vanessa.
Okay. One of the things I start my day as, because I used to like just rush and hurry and start my day, and I have to drop off my son, and I have a consult and all that. Now I've like learned to breathe as soon as I get up and like just lay with my son, where we just cuddle and like we talk. That's a big start to my day. That's a regular that I've been doing for the past 4 months, and it's helped me tremendously, because I'm like, why the hell am I busting my ass so much if I'm just rushing through these little moments? So that's one. Yeah. I love to kickbox. I'm an avid kickboxer. So actually, working out is super important to me. It's just a way to like, get rid of the beer, right? I'm a beer chick, and work off the beer, work off the stress and like the clutter. So that's like definitely important in my life. If it's not on my calendar, Paul, it's not going to happen. So it's just always on there, Tuesday night kickbox class. So that's a regular I do. And then one thing that really works for me is just really managing my time well. It took a while for me to figure that out, but there's so many people say, Vanessa, how are you able to put out so much content, or you're everywhere? Well, it's just because I've learned to manage my time. So my calendar, I live and die by. If it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. So I'd say those three things are really helped me.
And do you use a scheduling tool for your calendar?
Yes, we talked about it on LinkedIn, of course. Yeah, I use Acuity.
Yeah, great.
Love it.
Brilliant. And the next section is a give section. So what's a cause or a charity that you're passionate about, and why?
Yeah, so I have been giving, I've always donated to St. Jude for many years now. And to be honest, it's just because my mother has. She supported it for so long. And, it's completely devastating when you talk about, kids who have cancer. And so it's just very near and dear. And so the fact that St. Jude is an incredible organization that takes care of families, and more importantly, takes care of these kids who beyond need medical attention, beyond need love and support, and the families don't have to worry about this financially. All they have to do is love and support their children and help them get through these unimaginable treatments. I can't even imagine my son going through something like this. So my mom has always given to St. Jude, and she's fallen in love with the charity. So I have too.
Great. Well, look, the last section is the action section, and I'll just ask you some questions and get some rapid fire responses. So the first one is, what are your top 3 productivity tips?
Top 3 productivity tips. Okay. I would day block. Okay. So that's how I get so much done, is that instead of like time blocking where from like 9 to 11, I'm going to work on this, and 11 to 12, I actually day block. So like say on Mondays, I schedule no consults. It's specifically just my creative days. Okay. So that's one way I am able to be so creative and so productive, is through day blocking. The other thing is scheduling tools, like we talked about on your LinkedIn post. That has saved me a monster time. You no longer have to email someone and say, when are you available? Right? I can meet Monday. No. That is gone. Right. And then the third productivity is to outsource. Oh yeah. Outsource anything that you don't want to do. You don't want me doing your books. So that was the first thing. Okay. I am not I'm not right brain. I'm left brain. I'm more creative. Yeah. You don't want me doing numbers. And so that was the first thing I did, was hire a bookkeeper and a tax guy, because that is not my forte. So outsource.
Great. And what are some favorite apps or software that you use to run your business?
Obviously, Constant Contact for my emails and my autoresponders. I love lead pages. I've been using lead pages forever. So I don't have to be, a web designer. The templates they have make you look very, very professional. So I love lead pages. And then my webinar tool for sure. Webinar Ninja I've used for webinars this year, which is actually probably the number one way I grew my email list this year. So webinar tool.
Brilliant. And what are some podcasts or books either that you love and why?
Well, one of my favorite podcasts is Amy Porterfield. So I've been listening to her since day one. She actually is the one that pushed me, to be honest with you, to start my own business when I was, planning my escape at the end of my 9-to-5 gig. I would, I think hers was the first webinar I actually took and was like, I could do this. I could teach this, I think. So I'm a big fan of Amy Porterfield's podcast.
Brilliant. And what's some parting advice you'd love to leave people listening now?
I would just say, if you're planning on escaping, again, save every dime that you can for sure now. And I mean, live like you would live like a broke entrepreneur. Okay. You can't it's worth it. So I would say save every dime that you can. And I know it's scary. Lord knows I know it's scary. But life is just too damn short not to love what you do. And, regret is going to be a son of a bitch. Just, picture yourself at 80 or 90 where, it's kind of just too late to, think about starting that gig, or I wish I would have quit my job back then because I was just so miserable. And when you are miserable in your life, think about it. We spend the majority of our life at our job or doing, or working. And so to be in a miserable job, that has got to affect your health. That has got to affect your family. And I know it's, maybe it's the pay or the insurance, that you need or things like that. But I really believe that we all have something very, very unique to offer every single person. And you just don't know where it'll take you after you jump. So like I said, if I can certainly do it, I think anybody can too.
Oh, that's great advice. And it was, such a lovely interview, Vanessa. You've given so much value. I've once again filled my page of notes. So we'll have all the comments, all the links, etc., in the show notes. And also, Vanessa's been very kind to give us a brilliant gift as well. So if you go to Vanessa Cabrera, and I'll put that in the show notes, .com/top 10 ways, there's a brilliant gift that Vanessa's given on ways that you can grow your audience. And, what I love about you, Vanessa, is that you've got lots of practical experience and obviously started in email marketing. Then you've made the shift into social. But I also love what was on your website where you've got, first you help people understand it. Second, you help people make it easy to implement. And the third thing is you get results. And I just like the fact that you are making it simple in a world where social media can be so complex. But brilliant having you on the show today. And thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Paul. This was awesome.
All right, brilliant. Thanks, Vanessa. Bye.
Bye.
That was a really wonderful interview with Vanessa. My top 3 takeouts are, first one is the power of Instagram stories. So in 2019, it's where it's at. And what I love, she said off camera that you can actually do both personal and business with Instagram stories. The second is to always be nice and professional, which helps you get additional gigs. So if you're a speaker or that, for anything for that matter, people will always bring back the people that are professional and nice. Leave your ego at the door. And the last one is around checklists to get people from your LinkedIn connections onto your email list. So they're my top 3 takeouts. I'd love to hear yours. So why don't you email me at paul@buildlivegive.com, where I'd love to get your insights from this podcast. Also, if you love this podcast and you know other corporate escapees, please share it with them. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Corporate Escapees podcast, brought to you by Build, Live, Give.
If you would like to join a community of like-minded peers, please visit www.buildlivegive.com. Until next time, thanks for listening and be brave.